Hey everybody, this is Billy at Be Tough. I'm here at Gailey's Marine in Bakersfield, California. I got a call from Steven saying they had an arsenal of wake surf boards. Let's go in there and let's check them out and let's see if we might find a board that you may like in 2020. All right, man, now we're moving to Surfstyle, right?
Yep.
You got a whole arsenal of boards here. Let's just go down the line here.
Yeah, so these boards are kind of like the next step. Somebody that wants an epoxy board, they want something a little more responsive, a little more buoyant, a little bit faster, but still not 100% sure of what they want to get. So these are a great second step for people, or if somebody that's wake surfed several times and like, hey, I want to get a board, I want to spend more money than on something like the basic board, these are a great option. So starting up here, the Byerly Buzz.
Yeah.
Very similar to that Byerly Speedster shape. Epoxy construction with the Durashell outside, so still very durable. Comes again with the two big outside fins and then a small center fin. So you do get a little bit of that crossover ability to have a natural surf style board, or you can play on it as a skim board still.
Yeah.
From there, the Ronix Cole Classic Fish.
Yeah,
classic
nice.
fish design, 3 fins set up. At this point, you start getting into the finesse system. So if you notice the spring boxes here, these are actually spring-loaded fin boxes. We could pop fins in and out of there real easy, no tools required.
I'll tell you, I pretty much ride Renix boards all I ride, and I tell you, that is like awesome. Like, they've never come out, and they're just like so easy to put in and out and try new fins out. And that's the thing, a fin size will change a board dramatically, right?
Yeah, or popping that center one out real quick. And a lot of people, they'll ride it with 3 fins, and then their next ride they ride it with 2 fins. Oh, I don't really notice the difference. I'll pop them out right there as I'm surfing. Flip one over here. Take this fin. I'm going to try it like this. There was a little bit of an issue here and there. It wasn't huge, but we did hear about some lost fins. So new for 2020, floating fins.
Oh, that's so smart. Yeah. I was going to say, man, I lost one, and I had the carbon, and you can't get that fin. It only comes with the boards. I mean, you guys hooked me up and got it to me, but the thing is though, if one of those comes off on the lake, it's going to the bottom, right? But not now. That's so smart.
Not now.
So
all
good.
Floating. So last time we were out on the lake, my rep says, "Hey, try this one," and just ninja start a fin out to me from the boat, and lands right there in the water. You pick it up, pop it in, and off you go.
Now, will they fit the new style fins? Do they fit the older boards?
Yes, they will.
They do. So you can upgrade and get those.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah, and they have a bunch of different sizes. We have lefts, we have rights, we have centers, so we can get any fins that you need.
Yeah, very cool.
Basically, same shape of that Cole Classic is the Coalfish for the ladies. So same classic shape, 3 fin setup with the finesse fin system. Pretty much a full grip top to it. Nobody really stands right here in the middle. We got a little bit of concave in the non-skid on the top, so it kind of fits into your foot a little bit better. If you notice the rail, it is a rounded rail, but it's kind of got a little bit of a sharp edge here. So it will dig a little bit, but it's not going to dig as hard as a skim board would. So you can create some drive off the edge, but it's not going to take out from underneath you, which makes these great for that beginner looking for the next level.
You know, one thing I'll talk about size too. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people do with wake surfboards is get too big a board.
Sure.
Because unlike an ocean wave, which is huge, right? A boat wave is limited. You have a small pocket that you have to stay in. So you want something as small as you can that will get the job done. You don't want to oversize.
Absolutely. Yeah. What happens, usually we see it with kids, parents don't want to buy a kid's board so that, this one's little enough for the kids, go ahead and ride it. It's still too much surface area for a kid. If you look at a kid's board, just for reference, this is a kid's board here.
Oh, wow. And
this is a lot of extra
They even
volume.
go smaller than that. I mean, I've seen someone's like half that size. So
So this is a lot of extra volume, and what that volume is going to do is going to create buoyancy, it's going to create lift, it's going to put the kids higher up on the surface of the water, or even if you have, a small teenager riding something like this, board sizing is very crucial to having an enjoyable ride. The board's too big, you're constantly charging the back of the boat. You're always on the brakes, and the board's still not slowing down. So
I would definitely want to err on the size of being too small. I mean, I rode, I'm 210, 220, and I've rode boards that say 190 on the max, and there's some of my favorite boards where I think if I was the other way around, you're picking a board up that's going to keep you out. You're not going to have as much control of the board.
Yeah, and when it comes down to it, experience will trump those sizing charts. The sizing charts are a recommendation by the manufacturers, but if you really know how to generate speed out of a board, you generally go to a little bit smaller size.
Yeah. All right.
So next in line, again, another Ronix board. This has been a real fun one. This is called the Marshmallow Thrasher. It is an epoxy core, but it does have a foam top on it.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit more of a high-end construction, But with the foam top, if people are slipping and falling on it as they're learning, it's a little bit softer. They're not going to get banged up quite as easily.
Yeah.
And then with the foam top, it allows them to do some cool graphics and stuff. That
You know,
we can't really do
I was
on
gonna say
other
something
things.
too for kids boards. This is my opinion. A lot of times, you know, you can find some boards, like let's take a look at this one with a real sharp edge, right? On some of these, on some of the younger riders, it wouldn't be a bad idea to maybe have something a little bit snub nosed out a little bit. That kind of, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Because things can happen. I mean, it doesn't usually happen on wake surfing, but it does. It can. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So for young riders, a lot of times thinking about like a rounded nose or something like that is not a bad idea.
Yeah, one thing that especially a pointed tip board is going to do, as people are learning to carve and they're getting down in the bottom of the wave coming back into it, a wider board will have the tendency to dip those corners. And a lot of times when you do that, it's hard to rebound from that. You know, people, oh shoot, it's submerging. They come back to the surface and they've lost their push in the wave.
So the wider the front of the board will actually cut into the water a little bit more.
It can, and it really has to do with the rider's body position and how they're maneuvering the board. And a narrow tipped board is just a little bit easier for people to learn on.
Yeah.
And then once they get the hang of it, going to a wider tip,
Right.
it's just different body positioning.
Yeah.
So.
Makes sense.
So from there, similar to these boards from Ronix and the Byerly,
Yeah,
the Hyperlite Automatic.
Man, that is a nice looking board right there.
Killer looking board, a little bit of a wood top
Whoa,
to it
that
this
is
year.
nice.
Looks really, really clean. Natural surf style board, big rounded rail on it, so it's not going to dig hard. It has that big floaty wide turn to it.
Yeah, these surfboard, like especially ones like this, right? Man, if you like, man, this is like a real surfboard. This was this actually, I mean, it probably wasn't, but I don't know if it was, but this feels like it's shaped. You know what I mean, by someone. And the thing about these that are nice is like they have more of a steering. You know what I mean? It's like you're steering through the waves, right, rather than sliding and cutting hard. It has it's kind of hard to explain, but I'm sure surfing people will understand.
What happens with this big rounded rail is when the board goes on edge, it's not digging, it's actually pushing the board up in the surface. So you take those real dramatic wide carves to it. So big bottom turns, snapping back hard on the top of the wave, and then 4 fin setup on this one. You can play with that a little bit. I prefer 2 outside fins only, but a lot of people, it's a little loose for them, so they like to put the 2 smaller fins in the center there.
Oh yeah, that's cool. The other thing too is, man, you get 4 on there. I've ridden the 4. They get kind of tight on the back end if you don't know what you're doing. You know what I mean? They can get real tight.
If you're trying to do a big board slide up on the wave, or even doing 360s, there's a lot of grip when you're running 4 fins right there.
That's a beautiful board though, man.
I kind of like the smaller one, the white, myself. That
Oh,
thing just
man.
looks super clean.
Oh, super clean.
Yeah,
That
Hyperlite
is.
killed it with these.
Yeah. You know the one thing about these boards too, you got with these boards right here, like the foam inside boards, you really got to be careful because they can ding, chip. They can. I mean, these are really kind of delicate boards. You got to really take care of your stuff when you have that kind of stuff.
These still have the. This is a Hyperlite shim here. This is a larger one, comes in a smaller size as well. These are back to that Durashell construction, which is good because you can bang them around a little bit and it's not going to hurt the board. But in a true epoxy laid board, they are a little bit more fragile.
Now, that's a big board right here, right? This would be a big rider board.
Yeah, this would be like a 200-pounder plus.
Yeah.
Even a lot of our guys that like yourself,
I
210s,
think that'd be too big for me. Yeah,
they'll even ride the smaller one.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and that again, that comes back down to experience. If you're experienced and you know how to generate speed, you can generally ride a much smaller board.
Yeah.
But this one, the shim, sharp edge on it, so another one of those crossover type of boards that you can ride it like a skim board or like a natural surfboard. This one's probably a little bit big for a skim board. I don't see many people shoving something like this, but it does come with the smaller fin and then the 2 big outside fins.
Right.
One of my favorite graphics for this year, Hyperlite paired up with the Thrilla Crew.
Oh man,
TNC Surf throwback,
dude.
So
I mean, if I tell you, I know the younger generation won't know what this is, but if you were around in the '80s in like 1984, this was everything. I mean, shirts, video games, surfboards, surf gear. I mean, this was it, man. The Town and Country graphics were. You had this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool to see them coming back a little bit. And the collab they did with Hyperlite, it's just something that we all grew up with that we love, and it looks great. This is a Hyperlite quad, so big rounded rail. These do come with foot straps on them, so if you want to do some of those airs or try a 360 or something,
and what's the wide bottom going to do for you? Because that's probably like one of the widest bottoms I've seen.
Yeah, so the width, basically the wider the board is, the more surface area it has, the more weight you can put on it without pushing it down in the water.
Okay.
And depending on the style of board, as the width comes back into the belly, that allows you to be really centered on it and have a lot of push right there, just natural on the board. As you move the width to the back, you can really be tail heavy and be kind of on the brakes, but because of the width, the thickness of the board, you can still get a lot of push from the tail. So instead of having to slow down, you can basically ride on the brakes, be way back in the pocket, and then when you're ready to go for it, get on the front, charge the wave, do an air. When you come down, nice wide surface area, so even if you lost some momentum, it still has a lot of float and a lot of push out of it.
Right, yeah. That makes sense to me.
With these, the straps will come off as well, so if you want to ride it like a normal wake surfer.
This one has the same thing, same strap system?
Yep, just a little bit larger board.
Yeah.
Again, with the 4 fin setup, the 2 back fins are not as close as they were on the automatic, but still same style of thing. You generally run the 2 bigger fins on the outside front position, and then the smaller fins on the rear if you needed a little bit more stability out of the board.
One thing about having the 4 fins is that sometimes it doesn't give you the option to have the single fin, right?
Correct.
So if you're into like riding with 1 fin, which a lot of people are, it's the final step before getting rid of all your fins. A lot of people like it for a real loose feel. Just think about that, you know what I mean? Because you are going to be at you're going to have 2 fins, right? It's either 2 or nothing.
Yeah, so one thing that comes into play a little bit with the center fin is a lot of people are trying to do 360s and they say, man, I can't finish my 360. I can get the board turned here, but I can't power it all the way around. And it's because you're taking your point of drag from here and pushing it far back to the middle. So when you're trying to twist that tail around, that fin is biting and wants to pull back to a straight position. So as your fins move outside and up, it's almost a pivot point where you can do a 180 and then pivot off those fins in 180.
Alley-oop.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
so
cool.
yeah, fin placement, fin size, it plays into a lot of the surf style, and a lot of people don't understand that. They run the same board with the same fins all the time, and I really don't like the board I bought. I want to buy another $800 board. Start with a $100 set of fins.
Oh, totally. I've even gone to like a large center fin, and that's a fun feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, you can almost get as much bite out of that than you do like 2 fins. You know what I mean? If you get the large center skag.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we move along, we're getting into the Conley line. Don't have the 2020 Conley stuff in yet, but a couple of the 19s are left, and shapes didn't really change at all. This is a Katana, and I really like this board. If you notice, really wide through the back and in the middle, but really narrow up in the tip. So this is something that you can get a lot of drive from that neutral stance, or even maybe a little bit tail heavy stance. But as you get on the front and start charging, you're not gonna dip this nose because it's so narrow. So if you're coming down in the bottom of the wave and doing a hard turn at the bottom, the nose is really easy to keep up out of the water. Yeah,
it's got another thing too is like how much concave the front of the boards have. That helps out a lot too, as far as like keeping the front of the nose out of the water. You know, kind of if you're not used to it and you see the nose like going there, you kind of panic a little bit, before you pull it. But some of these boards, like you can see, like the Buzz here, have a lot of concave, to keep the front of that board out of the water.
Yeah, and if you notice, a lot of people will say, oh, I don't like how it's kinked like that. Well, the idea of the flat surface area through the middle, that's more surface area touching the water. It should be easier to ride to maintain that push that the wave has. And then that kink on the front is just to keep the nose from diving. And then we got the Voodoo here. Voodoo, similar to kind of the shape of the quad from Hyperlite, so wide tip, wide tail, a lot of surface area on this board. This one runs just a 2
Is it a foam core construction?
Yep,
it is, right?
This is an epoxy construction. So even these other boards are still foam, but it's a different style of foam. These are a closed cell foam like a wakeboard. This is an open cell foam, more like an actual ocean surfboard.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's nice. I like that for sure. All right, well, can we get into some skim boards, man? Can we get into some advanced stuff here?
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's put these boards
away.
Skims.
Let's check it out, man.
All right.